Good afternoon. I'm Paul Hemp, the editor of CIO Straight Talk, and welcome to this, the latest presentation in the CIO Straight Talk webinar series. We're pleased to have with us today Ravi Kumar, the CIO of Gati Limited, India's pioneer in express distribution and supply chain solutions. Ravi is more than 25 years experience in IT and has spent the last 16 years at Gati. It's a recipient of numerous awards and recognitions, including a place on a list of India's most influential CIOs in numerous occasions. He has an interesting story to tell us today, partly because Gati's business is probably the almost the archetypal mobility sort of situation and the challenges of digital mobility with all its delivery trucks and deliveries across the nation. First, I just want to run through a few housekeeping things for the audience, so you can get the most out of this webinar, and also just briefly introduce you to CIO Straight Talk and the Straight Talk family of publications and offerings. So Straight Talk was founded in 2010 with the idea of offering a platform for CIOs initially and CXOs in general to share their experience-based insights with their peers as a way to really help one another and foster peer-to-peer learning of CIOs, CTOs, and other CXOs. Since the launch of CIO Straight Talk magazine in 2010, we've launched another magazine, CTO Straight Talk. There have been we've had this webinar series now for 3 years, and numerous events. And then last year we launched the Straight Talk Online portal and website, which is not only a home to our content, but also the home of online communities of CIOs, one for CIOs, one for CTOs, and one for executives involved in the digital transformation of their companies. Our webinar series has been very successful as a way to, again, have let the successful CIOs share the learnings and insights they've gained through their own professional experience. A couple housekeeping matters. So we're encouraging you to be this to be an interactive experience, and for you to pose questions to Ravi that come to you during the course of the webinar. You can pose those questions in the chat box on your dashboard, and I'd encourage you to do it as you think of them over the course of the webinar, and then at the end we'll have time for Ravi to respond to some of the questions that you have posed as members of the audience. The questions that are not answered, we'll try to respond to you, give Ravi the opportunity to respond to you offline after the end of the webinar. The audience is actually on mute during this webinar, but if you have any, besides questions, if you have any technical difficulties or anything else you'd like to communicate with us here at the in the running of the webinar, if you have any technical problems, please type those into the chat box and someone will get back to you. I'm looking forward to hearing Ravi's story because, as I said, he has an interesting one. I know a bit of it, but looking forward to him fleshing it out today. And I'm sure that we'll all walk away from today with some new and usable insights that we can take back to our own business. Ravi, with that, I think I'm going to turn the webinar over to you, and we'll join up again when after you're finished with some questions from the audience and some maybe some observations from me. But for now, thanks for joining us, and take it away.
Thanks, Paul. Good afternoon to all of you. It's my pleasure to be on this webinar today, and I'd like to thank HCL to give this opportunity to share our journey so far in the space of digital. So I'm going to speak for the next 35-40 minutes at max, and then leave the balance 10-15 minutes for questions for the audience in this webinar. In order to understand the journey what Gati has gone through, it is critical that we understand what Gati is, so that we can appreciate what we have been doing in the space of IT in the area of digital in Gati. I'm sure most of you know about Gati, but for those who don't know or not aware of the extent of Gati, Gati is into express cargo distribution, which means we do a door pickup to door delivery. And it is spread across the country. We operate out of some 540 locations within the country and quite a few other countries in China, Singapore, Indonesia, etc. So what is critical is A, the spread, which is important for our discussion. That means we are talking about remote locations of the country, number one. And on this slide, you will see 3,100 business associates, which means they are our delivery people for the express cargo. And you would see 4,500 is the fleet size, which talks about the 4 or 6 wheelers, the large tempos and lorries, we call it, the fleets. The 1,400, which talks about my e-com delivery personnel. The 220 reefer trucks, which talks about the, we call them the reefer truck, which means it's a refrigerated trucks, which is the chilled one, the frozen trucks. While we have been the pioneer in this industry for more than 25 years in the space of express distribution, but most often it is loosely called as a courier or a transport. We are not a courier, we are not a transport. We are into express cargo, supply chain and logistics, including warehousing. And in the latest additions, we do e-fulfillment centers. So probably with that, I will get into the next step, saying digital. I don't see a very clear definition of digital, but the commonly used component or a meaning for digital is SMAC, which stood for Social, Mobile, Analytics, Cloud. And the latest addition, of course, is the IoT. With that, it has become SMAC. This is one common definition which is broadly used, saying that if these components are used, then you are into digital. Which brings to the next question: if we use any of these or all of these, do we really become digital? Probably, my personal view would be, it depends. If somebody is using a mobile application for approving a leave, saying that we have also have a mobile application, can we call them digital? I'm not too sure. In my view, to say that an enterprise has become digital, that it has to have some key elements. Either they have used all the components or some of that, but it is very critical. It meets most of these key elements. First of all, to be a digital enterprise, the IT or a technology which earlier used to be on the periphery has to become the center. It has to become the core of the organization. And that should have helped in transforming the business or bring competitive advantage. It should help in business value creation. Of course, with all those components, it's critical that whatever we do, it is real-time, proactive, modular in nature if you talk about an IT architecture, and highly scalable. These are all very important, which component we use. Having said that, we'll get into what Gati has been doing so far. Now, in this slide, what we are talking about is the beginning, and all this is about mobility and related to mobility only. But however, I am going to quickly link, although we started with mobility, how we got connected to other components like cloud, analytics, IoT, etc. Although in Gati, we are not too highly on social side. So the other components we have touched, and some in a very large scale and some at the, we are at the tip. Having said that, I am going to give two qualifiers. I'm not going to get into any brand or a vendor's name in this whole presentation. I'm going to talk about the concept. And two, any examples I give of a company or a organization, not necessarily they are our vendors or they are the actual companies or organization we deal with. Those are all only meant for example to make my explanation or a point. So Gati has always been a pioneer in various things which we have been doing, especially in the space of IT. To explain about Gati, it is very critical that this industry, unlike most manufacturing industries, they might be having a ready-made ERP more often than not, like an SAP. If it is a banking, it might be a Finacle or likes of that. Unfortunately, in this express cargo industry, most of the ERPs are all custom developed. That includes people like UPS, DHL, TNT, FedEx. Most of them abroad and in India have their own custom developed application at the core. So Gati is no exception. Gati uses an ERP called GEMS, which stands for Gati Enterprise Management System. And this is an in-house developed ERP which takes care of everything in Gati. Why it is very important for me to explain that this is something we launched in 2003, completely web-based 3-tier architecture. But it also means it is a monolithic single installation on a proprietary operating system and proprietary database. That was a key point which I wanted to leave the audience with. In 2008, we launched a very interesting mobile application. Probably we think it is the first time in the world, and we have applied for our IPs as well. The business case what we had was when, for example, if we were to pick some shipment from HCL factory in Pondicherry earlier where they manufactured PC, and we delivered it to, say, a tax department in Kolkata. The payment was released to HCL only when HCL submits to the tax department something called a proof of delivery. And that proof of delivery is a piece of paper. Gati, when delivers it, takes the signature of the tax department along with a seal on that physical paper. This needs to go back to HCL, so HCL can give it to the government agency to collect their receivables, and Gati will get paid its invoice only when I submit this document called proof of delivery, POD. And while Gati was very good in moving the material and handling this material, probably we were not the best guy to move the document, which was not our core, back to HCL. Which means if I don't move one piece of paper having delivered probably 500 PCs, the entire payment was stuck with HCL for Gati, and HCL's payment was stuck from the government. So this was a big business problem. So in 2008, we came out with a very simple solution, a very innovative one. Probably if you think of it today, it might look well too simple because it has become a habit today. We came out with a mobile app, online mobile app, where after delivery, I take the delivery details on my mobile and take a picture of that proof of delivery. That gets uploaded real time onto my site, which means in the example, HCL can see that proof of delivery immediately. They can download that and submitted to the government department as well. So what was a perennial problem which used to lock crores of rupees in our invoicing got eliminated with one simple solution using a mobile. I'm going to talk about the challenges we faced on probably next slide. So I'm going to take you through in the first case what all we have launched. Some I'm going to expand, some I'm going to leave it for want of time. So that was the first thing, and it was a big game changer. Next, a continuation of this, since we did this for delivery personnel, we said we can also build an app for my salespeople, which means whenever they visit a customer, they can capture their daily sales call information on the mobile. I'm going to talk very less about it because it's something not very great. Next, you call it IoT, you call it anything, under vehicle tracking. We were probably the first organization to track our vehicles, which moves across the country, not within a city. And we rolled it out in 2009. Okay, it was a Herculean task at that time. So the benefit is very huge because at any point of time we can monitor of a few thousand of vehicles, where it is standing, where it is moving, what speed, etc. With this application, we could not only monitor, we could analyze multiple things in terms of the driver's performance, the route he took, what was our problems, etc. So it was not only monitoring the vehicle, we also could monitor the performance or a route behavior, including how fast he has been going in that route, or what is his average, etc. We have come a long way. Today, now in the age of Uber, everybody uses, but I still wanted to highlight that 8 years back, it was a huge challenge, and most importantly, it goes across states on the highways where the signals were poor. So we had quite a few challenges. We will talk about it. In 2010, we came out with a very novel idea of picking up the shipment from customers. This we gave it for the mid-level customers, not the very large customers. Very large customers, we had provided a PC, laptop, printers, etc. at the customer site. When my pickup person comes to pick up material, not only he uses a mobile device, but what was unique was we came out with a mobile printer, which used to print a receipt like a tax receipt, etc., or electricity bill we might get in our residences, to print a label. That was a huge quantum jump for our business, because what he used to do manually, which would took say 40 minutes at one customer site to do a job, got done in 2 minutes. That was quite unique. Now around this 2010, until then Gati was a B2B, which means business to business. When we picked up in HCL, probably we delivered to a government agency or a pharma company, etc. It was business to business. With the advent of e-com, we moved into the e-com space, which means from B2B movement, we started delivering material at the residence of our customers. That became B2C. And suddenly, the type of delivery people were very different. They were all moving in motorbikes and even four-wheelers, but a different set of delivery personnel. What was very different is they were carrying huge amount of valuable goods. Okay, and those are all daily usable items, which meant either it can be misappropriated or sold off, or the money, and in India most of the money is COD, which means cash on delivery. To give an example, if there was a delivery person and he was carrying 10 iPhones, which means he was carrying something around 6 lakhs worth of goods, or if he has delivered it and collected COD, that means he was carrying 6 lakhs. So there was a need, there was an urgent need to monitor the movement of this delivery person. That's when we came out with a mobile app, which means the person will be given a mobile on which an app will be downloaded, which means I can not only take the delivery details of the customer with the signature, but also I can track the movement of this delivery person, which means at any point of time during the office hours, we can monitor his movement. If he was to move in a particular geography for the delivery, we got alerts that he moved out of that area. And we had put a lot of checkpoints to monitor the particular person's movement. Not only we did that, we introduced things like chat. So there was a two-way chat between him and the control center wherever we needed to communicate with him. And instructions went into his mobile device automatically from my core system, so that he can do his next pickup or delivery as the case may be, or a change if required. That was about the e-com delivery person tracking app. In 2015, of course, we went continuously improved on this mobility solution. But in 2015, we came out with a customer application, which is, I won't spend much time. Any customer can download an app and do all the tracking, booking, all those things, which is sort of routine. But the same year, we brought in another unique solution. This was to handle the security guard. Since we were spread across 500 plus locations and some of the offices were small, but there was a lot of critical inventory lying, we wanted to monitor the security guard who is there. Unlike an employee who has a tag, who has got an employee record, he comes in and goes, you will find that security guard might not be tracked so easily, because it's possible one day he doesn't come, he might tell some of his friends to be a security guard as a standby. Nobody knows. We all assume if somebody stands in front of our office in a blue uniform, he is the right security guard. So we came out with a unique way, because if you have passwords, you will give the password to somebody. So using a tab in our premises with the Wi-Fi connectivity restricted, we came out with a selfie concept, which means he has to take a selfie to mark his attendance in and out. Suddenly, we got a complete visibility of all our security of few hundred spread across, and we can contact them and we have their images of their face, in a two-step process for us to monitor who was present, who did not get present. Of course, this app did throw quite a lot of surprises for us, and that was in 2015. The biggest game changer happened for our organization in 2016. Again, a very unique launch, probably the first again, where we introduced something for scanning purposes. Usually, courier is a different operation. A lot of courier people do scanning because it is an envelope or a small package which gets scanned on a tabletop. Whereas we carry material like a refrigerator, a television, a tire, any automobile component, etc. So it can't be brought. And India is not so advanced where a conveyor belt and auto sorting happens. So we came out with a unique solution of scanning packages, and we are the first to do it in this country, where we paired a very cost-effective tablet to a scanner to doing the scanning, loading and unloading of the vehicle. This brought in a huge change. Not only we were scanning, we were doing a lot more automated work using that. In fact, we have created such an app, it can speak to the handler. We call them the handler who loads and unloads the material. Probably it can speak their own language. Correct? if he selects that language. So we have given options of language, and we have added many features onto this tab. So we have started making somewhat the package sort of figuratively speak, saying about its location, about its detail, what is the step, what type of, is it an air shipment, whether it is running late, everything got automated at the press of a button. It's again unique. If you've seen in this journey of 2008 to 16, most of it you will find that first in the industry, first in the country, we have not used any application which was used elsewhere, or we could probably cut, copy, paste something which was there in the Western world, because the Indian environment was very, very, very different. So we had to come up with our own innovative, unique solution, which we internally call it an Indianized solution to meet our requirement. Now, having said this, it is not that it was very easy rollout. There were a lot of challenges. Probably in the next slide, I will touch upon few of the challenges, and I will go probably more towards the 2016 shop floor automation more rather than the other areas. Having said that, briefly, I will touch upon quite a few challenges. When we launched in 2008 the mobility solution for our delivery people, it was all not the smartphones, and it is not like the era of Uber and WhatsApp. There were delivery people who had never sent an SMS in his life at that point of time. And when we were launching it, we were very skeptical. They had to use a QWERTY mobile of Nokia. You know that it was 2G and the speed was low. And we were asking them to take an image and upload. If they were uploading that image, then there was performance challenges. The biggest solution we found out, although we launched this on 12th December 2008, and we had a year plan to roll out across few thousand people spread across 450 locations at that point of time. We had a plan for 1 year. But the biggest surprise for us was we could complete the entire rollout successfully in the next 60 days. We think on 20th February, it was completed pan-India, 100% usage. So what we did, one big learning was, if we give a solution to a user and that solution is of great benefit to them, it gets adopted very, very, very easily. That was our biggest learning. Our target was 1 year, but we completed it in 60 odd days. And second, that was the first step of our application to become modular. Since I told it was an enterprise sort of architecture, a monolithic block, so performance was an issue. If I were to increase my CPU, I have to increase my licensing cost, and even if I increase the CPU, it was not probably allotting this CPU resource to this particular requirement of mobile app. It was increasing the resource across. That was the challenge. So what we did, we broke our key component, whatever is required for tracking of this delivery people, we started moving it from our enterprise database to an open source database on event basis. So that became highly scalable in our cloud or a private architecture. So based on the requirement, only that application which had a short life, we could scale many CPUs across servers if required. That was the key thing for the mobility. Probably VTS at that point of time, the challenge was, unlike today, our vehicles did not have a digital odometer. We had to use an analog odometer, and even the Google Maps were not as accurate as it is today. We had to depend on other map service provider. And our biggest challenge was the ETA computation, ETA is expected time of arrival. So that we had to do two things for that. The challenge was, how do we fix that device where the truck driver does not pull it out. So we have to build intelligence, we have to hide it in his vehicle, but get the power source from the battery and not tamper it, etc. And another thing we have to do is we have to map the entire country on a geofence of 5 kilometers every leg, which means that helped us to compute the estimated time of arrival based on the vehicle movement and the logic. So quickly I'll move on, I'll skip the mobility pickup automation part of it, I'll go to the e-com tracker. The challenge faced was when a person takes a smartphone to deliver a shipment, A, battery. 2, if he gets a call when he gives the phone for customer to sign, the application is to disconnect. Okay, so I needed a battery which will be there for 8 hours, 9 hours, etc. And we wanted to ensure the battery life is long, and also he does not put any applications, etc. So what we did in that case was we gave a specific tab which did not allow him to call, SMS, etc. It had only one application. We put our own custom developed MDM, which meant when he starts the tab, he can do one operation, which is our delivery operation, and B, he can switch it off. The app what we built can also monitor the battery life. So you cannot tell that battery drained out, so I did not use that app. So if last minute when the battery goes down, we start calling him on his other phone for monitoring purpose. So we built in a lot of intelligence. When you come to the SFA in 2016, the cost normally on a high-end scanner was $1.5 lakh or so. The solution what we built was probably 1/5 of it. And the biggest challenge was pairing it between a tab and a scanner. It was not pairing with all tabs and all scanners. And when we launched this, the transactions what were a few lakhs became few million. So suddenly we were having too much of data to handle, and the speed of data was very high. The current status is you have some 4,000 plus mobile devices being used across 540 plus locations, probably 1.5 million, 1.5 million transactions happening through mobile devices. So which meant that we had to move to a very scalable architecture, highly redundant setup as such. Probably how we handle it, we will talk about in the next slide. So what we did, we moved to a modular architecture, as I told, open source. So whatever activity we are doing, we moved from our core ERP to another database, which was modular, which was open source, where we could scale up and down, create high redundancy, and of course, most of our application can be used anytime, anywhere, authorized access on any device. So slowly on the shop floor, we moved away from PCs to all tab mobile device based. As I told, this created huge volumes, 1.5 million from mobile devices itself. And the response time required was instantaneous. And not only that, we added to move from reactive to a proactive scenario. With these changes, what we did in our architecture and handled, not only that, even a website which were getting few thousands hit, suddenly the likes of e-com vendors like Flipkart, Snapdeal were querying my server 1,000 at every few minutes, which means my response times had to be fast and it was high volume things. These technical changes, as we spoke in the beginning, brought a huge competitive edge. It was transformative in nature, and the productivity in each area what we introduced technology gave quantum jumps for us. Having said that, as of now, current implementation is whatever we have moved to our private cloud, we are moving now to a public cloud with so much of data coming into our system. we are moving into real-time analytics so that we can analyze and take action. Not only we are going into real-time analytics, but shortly we will move from real-time analytics to predictive analytics as well. So this covers the MACT part of it. We also, as I told you, monitor our refrigerated units and also the refrigerated warehousing as well. Having said that, in the near future, what we expect to happen, a big impact on IoT. I'm going to give two small examples to make my point. If there is a free refrigerator vehicle traveling and I'm carrying some frozen item with the IoT, what I'm saying is going to happen. It is a wish list or a vision. That particular item can be put in a particular pallet in one portion of the vehicle, and that each portion of the vehicle will have sensors, and it is going to communicate real time what is the condition of the item. If, for example, the chiller fails, what it will do, it will tell the driver, it will tell the central location that you are driving to a destination where the temperature is hot. So you have the following option. Probably you can give it to the next shop whose shop guy has run out of stock at a lower price, or you need to call for another vehicle to ship that material, or you need to dump that in the nearest warehouse. All this is going to happen real time. And example number 2 is, it is possible you have a washing machine at home, say a IFB washing machine. Now if it is going to fail, it is automatically going to talk to my system in my warehouse of IFB ordering a replacement shipment. This is what is going to happen. And every package I carry is going to talk to us. Not in the physical way, but it is going to communicate. And it is going to communicate a lot of information. By 2010, it is expected some 50 billion devices will be talking in the things. So there is going to be a huge flow of traffic in the system, and all of us have to gear up for that. Now, having said that, I talked about current, where we are, what we are doing now, and what we are moving forward for the future. The question is, have we become digital fully? Probably we are on the route to become a full digital enterprise. Still miles to go in our journey, and our journey continues. This, in brief, is what I thought of sharing with all of you. And my time clock says here that I have just 1 minute left out of my presentation time. Paul?
So Ravi, I just want to say, first off, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's a fascinating story. First of all, it's crystal clear. Your descriptions are so, your explanations and your descriptions of that journey are so clear. But two, it is really an interesting tale. As I said, given the nature of your business, one thing that struck me as you were talking was that innovations that we take for granted today, like image capture, for example, on your delivery updates, or even a vehicle tracking system, at the time were just breakthrough ideas. And that's actually one, I'm going to take advantage of my position here as moderator to ask you 1 or 2 questions myself that jumped out. So going back to even those initial innovations, but then as you've moved forward with the really quite cool selfie solution for the guards or the watchmen, and then your whole shop floor automation initiative. You've talked a lot about the technology challenges that you faced in executing on those. Can you talk a little bit about the innovation process that led to those ideas in the first place within your group or within your organization? Because I think some of your observations there will be interesting to audience members who aren't obviously in your particular industry, but a little bit about really how those kind of breakthrough ideas came about within your group at the time that they did. Can you talk a little bit about that innovation process?
Sure. See, one of the critical components, I think, and we always believed, technology for technology is really not useful. You are not going to get a brownie with your users. The IT team should be well versed with the industry they are in, the market they are in, and the particular company.
Ravi, we're losing you there. You broke up just for a second. You were saying that your team, technology wasn't good for technology's sake, and that you needed to be in touch with the user.
Yeah, I think IT personnel, right from the CIO to the key people, they should know more about their operations and their company. When I say operations, it can be sales function, it can be HR function, it can be the core service function what they are in. Until they understand that, you are not going to give a proper solution. Correct? Once you understand the pain point, then automatically you start to think what is the best solution which you can come out with to meet the requirement. And the solution need not come from your industry. You can find a solution in any industry across the world which can be used to solve a particular company's user requirement. So the innovation will start when you start understanding the problem. And it gets absorbed in a company easily, the solution, when it takes care of their pain points. And the users are always ready to go walk the extra mile if they see a huge benefit.
So, but I think what you've done is raised a really interesting point that will resonate with a lot of members of our audience, is how do you inculcate in your own IT staff that sense of user empathy and the awareness of and appreciation of customer pain points within your? I mean, traditionally your staff would have been technology people. I mean, they're still technology people, but often without that sort of mindset. Do you recall that was there any ways that you could try to create that atmosphere or culture of user and customer understanding?
Yeah. So in my view, there are two critical things. Unlike other industries, this industry is a very different industry. So there are very few people who understand this industry, especially the technology people. So which means one key component is retention of your key people, which means if I can retain my team, that means their understanding of the business is high. If I'm going to lose my people every year or every 2 years, then the newcomer who is going to come in is going to take a long time to understand this industry. By the time he would have found another job and left. So one critical component is retention of your people, at least the main senior people. So which we have done very well. In fact, in my 16 years in Gati, all my team senior members are there with me. I have not lost a single guy. Number two, we always discuss internally not to use any technological jargon with the user. People have to communicate the user language and not technology, and understand what is the problem, and only within the IT team they are permitted to use all the jargons. Otherwise, people talk too much technical and this scares away the user to talk to an IT guy. I think there are two critical components, which focuses on the operation, and you put them on the job to go there, understand, interact, do it yourself, come back and say, hey, this is the problem, what we are facing.
So I think
all rollouts are done by my IT guy first on the shop floor before we put it onto the user.
Interesting. I actually think those two observations, one of making sure that your team knows your industry just because they're there, they've been there long enough to get to know it, and then the idea of not using jargon are both interesting. And I don't want to dwell on this too long, but I want to drill down on that first one a little bit. So in a labor environment as mobile as is in technology positions in India, how did you retain that senior team that you said has been fairly stable? I mean, what were the either conscious or in retrospect unconscious things you've done that helped keep that team, retain your people in that way?
So see, initially it was not conscious, obviously, when you start, but then quickly you realize that your knowledge of the business is more important than knowledge of technology, So, because you can always get a technology vendor to do some solution for you, but that vendor might not understand your business. So then after the initial 2 years, that became very evident that this is a very different industry and you need people with the knowledge. So you started growing your people and most importantly, give them the freedom, correct? If you have seen all these things, what you have seen is successes. That doesn't mean there are no failures, correct? So we had to give opportunity for them. Each of it was a stupid idea when we started it, correct? Which means there's a very high probability that we fail. So most of my team members have the luxury, not only my team members, that starts from me. As a management, we have the luxury of trying, okay, and which also means succeeding or failing. The good part of it, we have succeeded in more number of things than we failed, but that also means we have failed on a couple of implementations.
So actually, this as a footnote on this, right in this area of discussion here, an audience member asked a specific question: is what has the size of your team or the IT workforce at Gati grown over the years, or how has there been pressure to reduce the resources, or has it grown as your solutions have grown? Just a little bit on the actual numbers in your function.
My team is around 60 people, 30 people who take care from the head office, 30 people are in the support service in the field, which is like we have front-end support, supporting 540 locations. Only 30 people are there to install or put a face to a name and a person to IT in the field. So 30 people include software development, network management, servers management, etc. This team has not really grown, it is almost same. What we have done, whatever routine areas, whatever can be outsourced, we have outsourced. For example, vendor A might be monitoring my entire network and my SOC. Vendor B might be monitoring my data center. So what we think were pure technical and routine in nature, we have pushed it out of R, although we manage and supervise their activities. So my team has not really grown, although my business and volumes have grown probably multiple X.
Okay. Let me take another angle of that, which actually there's a kind of two related questions, one from an audience member and a follow-up question I have based on what you've just said. So, everything you did wasn't a success, obviously. If it were, you would question your credibility. But so, how did you? So the broader question is, how do you get business buy-in for the sort of things you were doing? You said, obviously in the beginning, maybe some of them even sounded a bit far out. But also, how do you deal with when something doesn't work out? How do you get that buy-in from other stakeholders, your business stakeholders, or top management, or other parts of the organization? What's your relationship with them to get the support in both for the tremendous successes and innovations you've enjoyed, but also the times that things don't work. Can you talk a little bit about that relationship?
See, the good part of it is if an IT CIO or IT head, has got good understanding of the business, that is the first plus point he gets. Second, once you succeed, nothing succeeds like success. Okay. Mm-hmm. The biggest advantage we had in Gati is that it was not the user who wanted a solution. More often than not, IT came with a solution and pushed it to the user. Okay. That again, because we know the business in and out. Mm-hmm. And you talked about failure. The last one I talked about was SFA in 2016. You will not believe the first methodology I launched that in 2003. In 2003, I failed miserably launching the same barcode scanning concept in 2003. Again, we relaunched it somewhere around 2007-8. Again, we failed miserably. The difference was we were too ahead of time. We wanted things to happen automatically. That we could achieve in 2016 because of mobile. The scan was the same, barcode was the same, the background concept was the same. What made the big difference for us was the mobile app what we created. So when we failed, yes, you go through difficult times, especially when you say that from tomorrow there will be a magic and we are going to do X, Y, Z and this is the way we are going to get benefit in an organization. But fact remains, not all projects are going to be successful, and that depends upon the equation with the top management, correct? So you go up and say, yes, we failed, we failed and accept these were the reason, probably we will come back with a different solution or a better solution. And you need a buy-in. And that is what I said, the advantage we had a management who allowed us to experiment, try, and had faith that, okay, you'll pull off more often than not.
I want to return to that this general area of questions in a minute, but we have a couple questions from the audience that are more specific to your industry that I'd like to just have you quickly respond to. Did you develop any routing application that optimizes the route of the delivery vehicles? And another question about are there any RFID solutions that you've implemented for particularly costly or crucial deliveries or consignments?
We have a routing planning algorithm for our route vehicles, which means the long distance vehicle. It is similar to a flight route which gets created once in few months. Okay, but we do not do something called a dynamic routing every day. Okay, that as of now it has not been beneficial for us. Having said that, we are integrating a third-party app for my e-com delivery person, which is going to tell me which will be the shortest path and which is the right path for me to take for my e-com delivery boys, which is under pilot. We have to test the success of the pilot, effectiveness of the pilot. We have been doing it in only one location as of now in Hyderabad. On successful of pilot, then we will move to the other locations.
Okay. And some sort of RFID
solution? We are not using RFID because as of now, it is a very costly solution if I want to use of RFID for my package tracking.
Okay. I'm just looking at the clock, and I want to address one other kind of general area before we wrap up, or kind of related to what we were talking about before, and that is the relationship with stakeholders, because I think while your situation is somewhat specific, and actually your technology breakthroughs have been somewhat dramatic, the organizational questions are applicable to people in a variety of companies. So actually, two things on that. One is, can you think of any examples where you've looked to other industries that for, if not ready-made solutions, inspiration or thought, things that spurred your own thinking? You mentioned I think you mentioned that was sometimes the case, and can you think of any examples of that?
See, what we are trying to do now, we are trying to look at e-com vendors like the Amazons, the Flipkarts, you know, look at how are they handling the scale, correct? And we are looking at telecom operators to find out how they do their billing, correct? So we want to use the e-com vendors, the Flipkarts and the Amazons to create a scenario of that big $1 billion day spike, because their big $1 billion is my big $1 billion day as well. Because if a customer places an order on Amazon, X percentage of the shipment I move it, correct? I'm just using Amazon as an example. So how do I create an architecture which can scale immediately and also do real-time and proactive analytics? So we have picked up some of the nice things what they are doing conceptually. I don't want to get into specific technology names, but conceptually there, and from the telecom operators in terms of how we can do this sort of high volume billing, correct? Okay. And how it can be modular from a bank.
Okay, terrific. Let me just see if we can squeeze in one more question here, again about the relationship with different stakeholders. So you had pointed out that a lot of the solutions that you adopted or implemented were ones that actually originated within the IT function that the business side maybe hadn't even dreamed of yet, or didn't even know, couldn't conceive of. So what sort of adoption challenges have you faced, if any, with stakeholders in implementing some of these solutions, and what have you done to help ease those challenges, if any?
Yeah, see, in each of the implementation, there has been a huge amount of challenges, correct? When you talk about the latest shop floor automation, correct? So the type of problems they will say are innumerous. The only way to do is to put in a process and probably put your person on the job, including yourself, which means if they will say in the tab, the battery runs out in half an hour. Somebody will say my tab hangs every 5 minutes. Somebody will say this scanner is not getting paired, so I can't do this job properly. So you have to put in a process to document every step, you know. So for every problem they raise during your pilot, you create a chart saying that, okay, somebody says 1 hour. You go there, put a person to do the whole day. Every time I give a tab, I'll probably sign off on a register that this time you took the tab, and this time you are returning where the battery was still there. What was the percentage when you took? What was the percentage when you gave? Correct? And what is the time, actual time? You did a time and motion study standing there to say this activity takes this much time. This is the problem you faced. How many times in a whole month there was a tab hanging issue? So, because users are going to find the first excuse not to do it. And we are talking about people who are not very highly qualified. They are all people who handle load material or unload material, correct? They are going to look at these tabs and scanners or some gizmos, which they are not used to, correct? So you have to stand there, go through this process without saying that the document says my tab will work for 8 hours, so it will work for 8 hours. Then you are losing the battle. Probably you have to go there and find what you said is correct. Let me also understand under what condition your battery is getting drained. I'll just pick up one example.
Sure. Yep.
So you will definitely have problems, but you have to do it yourself or make your team stand there and do it to really understand the problem or so that the problem doesn't occur. Rather than putting that person off that you don't know, this is highly technical. When you say it is correct, it is correct. Then you are losing a battle.
So it's real engagement with those stakeholders at a very up close and personal level, and that's actually kind of an interesting concept too. Is not communicating from afar, but being right there, shoulder to shoulder in that case, to understand the issues and the adoption issues. Ravi, I actually would love to go on because I've got some more questions, and I know our audience members do too. But our time is up. I want to just thank you so much for taking the time to share your experiences and the learnings from your experiences with us on this webinar. But also thank you for having so many things to share and having learned so much in this interesting journey you've had at Gati. I also want to thank our audience for being with us today and mention that you will receive an email with a link that to the recording of this webinar, so you can share it with colleagues. And I think that there is kind of a viral aspect to these webinars where it can other people can find them quite interesting, and so the audience members will receive a link to see the webinar again, and it will also appear on the Straight Talk online website under our webinar section, which is www.straighttalkonline.com. So thanks to all for being with us today, but mostly to you, Ravi, for taking the time. And I just think it's a great journey. But as you point out, hey, it ain't over yet. You're always the journey continues. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure talking to all of you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. We'll talk again. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.